Hello and welcome again to the Rider Review. This is Eric Carrot Rider, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1995 cyber mystery thriller titled The Net. Now, The Net runs for 1 hour and 55 minutes long. It is directed by Irwin Winkler. It is produced by Irwin Winkler and Rob Cohen. The script was done by John Brancato and Michael Ferris. The score was done by Mark Isham, the cinematography by Jack N. Green, and it was edited by Richard Halsey. And the stars of the movie are Sandra Bullock, Jeremy Northam, Dennis Miller, Diane Baker. Let's see who we have. We have Wendy Gazelle, Ken Howard, Ray McKinnon, Robert Gossett, and Wren T. Brown. So The Net kind of, takes you on an exciting adventure through cyberspace. And with the feeling of a thrill ride that kind of sort of has an Alfred Hitchcock feeling behind it. As director Irwin Winkler. But however, though, this is definitely far from the genius that is Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, the thing is that this had a lot of great potential to be a Hitchcock type movie, but director Irwin Winkler definitely misses his opportunity to take a potentially fascinating account to boldly go into a world that was not covered much into at the time, only to end up falling into the trap of just another formulaic standard thriller. Mind you, I won't put down Winkler. I mean, it was exciting. I mean, it was very fast paced, and it got me excited and all that. But I wanted to know, but this was an original movie about cyber terrorism. I wanted more excitement about that. I wanted more emphasis on that. But instead I ended up getting shortchanged. That's kind of like what my main principal gripe is. And for that alone, it really puts a deter towards my point score. I mean, the early scenes were amazingly gripping and heart-curdling, but the end was excruciatingly weak. And if it wasn't for Sandra Bullock starring in it, this movie would have ended up just being almost pretty much a bona fide straight-to-video or some low-budget TV movie. Because let's face it, there's not a lot of star power in this movie. There's not a lot of big names here. And the performances do not come out big, with maybe the exception of Sandra Bullock. Just like her two previous outings before, like Speed and While You Were Sleeping, it's definitely Sandra Bullock's facial expressions which are convincing enough to garner some sympathy to the audience. And she really does that. Like I said, she was the scene stealer in this movie, and she's the only one who seems to actually have a firm grip on this movie, while the others just seem to sort of meander. And even through the more absurd situations, we could still remain invested in her character. She's not just playing a character, she is the character. She is Angela Bennett, and not just playing her. Whereas the others are just trying to memorize their lines or trying to read off the cue cards, Sandra Bullock actually gives us more genuine reasons why we should care about her. Not just because of the fact that she's playing the protagonist here, but because of the fact that she's the only one who really stands out. The others just didn't seem to. The others just didn't seem to raise that standards or play their roles convincingly. So the story goes a little something like this. Sandra Bullock plays the role of Angela Bennett. She is a software engineer who lives her life in cyberspace. Her job is basically to debunk computer viruses, and it seems like she doesn't seem to have very much friends on the outside world except cyberspace. All her instant message buddies are either from different parts of the world, because she spends more of her time instant messaging with people as opposed to actually going out and introducing herself to people. She is pretty much semi-reclusive. Everything she does is through computer or modem. I mean, even ordering a pizza, she does it online, which was pretty rare back in 1995. Today, it's more commonplace, but this is 1995. The internet was still pretty much in its infancy. There was no MySpace, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook. The internet was still, at the time, well, not necessarily a newborn, but more or less a toddler. The only time she ever breaks from her reclusive phase is when she's on a well-deserved hiatus to Mexico. And even her going to Mexico, she is still not without her laptop. I mean, it's like her laptop is like her child. It's like she never goes out without it, too. I mean, even when she's vacationing, she's still debunking computer viruses. It's almost like trying to tell her, hey, come on, there's life outside of cyberspace. You know, embrace the moment. Sometimes it's good to just shut down and enjoy life. I mean, I know it's sometimes a little bit hard to resist, but at least make the effort. So, just as she was going on her vacation, Angela gets into possession of a disk that contains pivotal information towards some serious criminal activity from cyber thieves who call themselves the Praetorians. They know she's got the disk and will stop at nothing to get it back. So while sunning herself on the beach, she meets this handsome fellow hacker named Jack Devlin, played by Jeremy Northam. Do you actually see the connections between the names Angela, as in angel, and Jack Devlin, as in devil? So this is pretty much predictable over who's the leading hero and who's the leading villain. Anybody whose name is Angela has got to be an angel. Anybody whose last name is Devlin has got to be the devil. So, right away, you can tell right away that he's the villain in this story. And, you know, this handsome charmer has got the right amount of style and charisma to definitely rival James Bond. The problem is that this handsome guy is armed with a gun, and he is not afraid to use it on her. I mean, in the opening early scenes, you know, he's wowing her, and she seems to be somewhat attracted to this guy. But the thing about this guy being the predictable devil is that it happens all too soon and way too early in the movie. I mean, if it would have happened maybe around near the 25 to 30 minute mark, we would probably get a firm understanding better. But no, they didn't waste their time to reveal that this guy is not who he says he is, and that he's a hacker, and that he is also a predator as well. Okay, so she avoids his wrath, but by the time she gets back to the States, she's suspicious that the Praetorians have hacked into her system and changed her identification. And her suspicions became a reality. And now Angela Bennett is now going by a different name. Her name is now Ruth Marks. Yes, her name is now Ruth Marks. And it seems like everywhere she goes, she is Ruth Marks, and she is wanted by the police. Even though she's trying to do everything she can to clear her name and to clear her innocence, that she's not really Ruth Marks, but Angela Bennett, it seems like everybody around her just does not believe her. Everybody around her thinks she's exaggeration. That's because, she spends most of her time at her computer, where she's got very little friends and very little contact. Even the place where she works don't really know who she is. So somebody else is going by the name of Angela Bennett, while she's going by the name Ruth Marks. Even though that's not her name, and she wants to make sure that that is not her name. She tries to get some reassurance from her mother, played by Diane Baker, who unfortunately isn't really a great help in defending her due to her advanced Alzheimer's disease. But the only person who really knows her identity is her ex-boyfriend, whose name is Dr. Alan Champion, played by Dennis Miller. But he thinks she's just having a meltdown. So while this is happening, the real Ruth Marks, played by Wendy Gazelle, has taken Angela's job, her name, and her life. As I was saying before, the first hour of the film is virtually exciting, with great moments of intensity to have your heart pounding. This is real heart palpitational fun here. But by the second hour, it becomes a formulaic cat and mouse chase, and all original intentions are reduced to just an afterthought. By the latter hours of the film, it's just Angela running away from villains with their arms, and their thriller cliches become more and more commonplace, making everything all the more mundane, and the final solution becomes definitely more and more anticlimactic. I mean, can't we get something more exciting? I mean, why couldn't they just kept that kind of flow? I mean, why couldn't they come up with more reasonable solutions to help her regain her life, regain her identity, and regain her job, and to prove her innocence? Why did they have to go to the route for cat and mouse chases and, gun shootings and stuff like that? There was no reason for that. They could have found much more better hooks and angles to get the better of it instead of just dumbing down to just a bona fide cat and mouse chase. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, this was exciting and this was fun and all, but I just couldn't really resist the fact that this could have been just much more better in its execution. The net definitely has a premise into believing that being dependent on computers can have its assets and liabilities. Sure, it can make the world an easy place, and sure, it can get things done without really necessarily leaving your house, and doing everything online is just less of a hassle, but also without really socializing with other people. People don't really know who you are, and it's not that easy to have your identity stolen, and then by the end of the hour you just get it back. No. I mean, the thing is that everything was just lazy near the end. Did Mr. Winkler run out of ideas that he decided, oh well, let's just make it a cat and mouse thriller? But then again, if you've seen one cat and mouse thriller, you've seen them all. For better or for worse. And this could have been just so much more better than that in its execution. I mean, if this movie was made in the 1970s or the 80s, the genre would have been sort of labeled as kind of like a sci-fi film. And like I said, it had this kind of intention sort of similar to an Alfred Hitchcock thing, where the underdog is usually put in a precarious situation and it's an endless struggle for the protagonist to get themselves out of the situation that they were put into, whether it was intended to or not. But it just failed miserably. By today's standards, it would have been more reality-based, with its constant advancements making it more dependable than ever. This film was, and still is, a bit ahead of its time. I mean, knowing that the year that it came out in 1995. I mean, sure, we can all laugh at the old archaic systems and the floppy disks and the modem hard drives, and this is long before high speed came into fruition, where you had to hear the annoying booms and beeps and all that shit, and sometimes it doesn't always come through. But now with high speed, everything just flows through. But, knowing that it was 1995, this was the very first time, and I gotta say, this was not exactly a bad effort. But if they could have just stuck to that kind of route to a more suspense level instead of a thriller, maybe this movie could have been a lot more better. We don't necessarily need to have her running around from assassins and bad guys and trying to dodge bullets. There was no need for that. It's just dumbing down its audience, thinking that we have short attention spans, or that we have the intellectual levels like a goldfish. What? Sorry. Computer systems, like I say, as long as we are in the technological age, computer security systems are never fully foolproof. And if you put it into the wrong hands, it can be quite catastrophic. And sometimes it might be hard to unravel. Here we don't have big brother under the watchful eyes. But he is taking action as well. It's a shame this movie doesn't further look into it. I guess my guess is that in the mind of director and producer Irwin Winkler, car chases and gun chases are much more exciting. It's a shame. So when all the smoke clears, The Net is definitely still enjoyable, mainly due to the casting of Sandra Bullock, who definitely succeeds in keeping the film tense due to her low-key performance. And while the film is not up to par with an engaging thriller to hold onto in its entirety, we definitely still have a character we could truly show sympathy towards, in spite of all the formulaic situations she's confronted with. I just can't say the same about the other performers because they just do not go to that same level as Sandra Bullock. Even the villain character, Jack Devlin, just didn't really sit very well. He wasn't really on very much. And he wasn't really that convincing as a villain character. Dennis Miller, it was good to actually see him kind of like break away from his smarmy comedic ways, at least a little less so, to play a much more sympathetic character. But that's pretty much about it when it comes to like the leading stars here. I mean, this is pretty much Sandra Bullock carrying the weight the whole way through. Sure, the suspense into the early days of cyberspace may have an exciting level of intention, but it's Bullock's performance that makes you sit through to the end. I sat through the end. I wanted to see how things just wrapped up. It was just too bad that it was anticlimactic. Everything just is all wrapped into a package. I mean, it just felt very, very rushed and very unconvincing. That's all I'm saying, really. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I did enjoy myself. I just thought it could have been better if it would have went another direction instead of just a mindless array of dodging bullets, running from predators. And turning it into sort of almost like a James Bond cat and mouse chase. So when all the smoke clears, all I could say is, I still recommend to see this movie, but I'm just not expecting any kind of high expectations. So when all's said and done, out of a scale of 10, I give The Net a 6. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.